Hey everybody, Reefgrrl here. Here's some top-down video for you to watch while I introduce the Sump Reboot. Reef keepers know that there are all kinds of decisions required, especially in the early days of setting up a reef tank. We do our best to plan and anticipate what we might want or need, and to set things up to accommodate whatever might come along. But after a year, sometimes it just doesn't look like we thought it would. When I set up my sump, I had to plan for biological filtration because my display tank has very little live rock. A lot of it is Texas holy rock, which has no biological filtration capabilities at all. I decided to use Chem Matrix, and I figured it would be just fine to just put it in my sump and put it all over the bottom and let it do its thing. Oh no, that was not a good decision, because does it ever collect detritus? And the deeper the layer, the more crud gets trapped down inside, and that concerned me, so I spread it out all over. That meant I was limited as to the other things I could put in my sump, such as the miracle mud I added. Over the course of the first year, my sump became disorganized, which made it hard to do maintenance, and because of that, it was dirty. The bad decision about how to put in the matrix didn't help. So I decided my sump needed a major reboot. In planning the sump reboot, my biggest concern was that I would put the tank through some sort of a mini cycle by disturbing too much of the bacteria and creating problems with the biological filtration I had set up in there. Right around this time, the UV sterilizer bulb needed to be replaced for maintenance purposes, and to do that, the skimmer had to come out. So what better time to begin the sump reboot? And of course, I'm always just a little bit anxious about doing maintenance tasks that I've not done before, especially where electricity and water and leaks are involved. So the UV sterilizer bulb replacement was making me nervous. I finally put that behind me and decided when the skimmer arrived that it was time to get going. You can see it in there on the back wall of the cabinet, and this is an example of how dirty one of the hoses is, so it's all going to have to be cleaned out. To be able to get at the unit, the skimmer had to be taken out. While I was at it, I decided I should go ahead and remove the skimmer stand. On top of the skimmer stand was a block of Marine Pure, one of the large 8x8 blocks. It was covered in coralline algae, and I'm pretty sure after being in here for over a year, it had to have been starting to leach stuff. It was certainly crumbling. So this is the skimmer stand that we had originally made, and oh my god, does it ever stink. And of course, check it out. The water is disgusting with all of the stuff that got stirred up, and I don't have a skimmer to pull it out. All of this dirt stirred up is a perfect example of why I'm concerned about affecting the biological balance in the tank. I'm doing this in stages and gradually so that things can settle down from one step to the next. I will be releasing another video showing this entire process, but for now, let's just say everything came out relatively easily without any major problems, and the cleanup was interesting. It was grungy, but not nearly as bad as I had expected. So we got the bulb replaced, the unit cleaned up, and everything put back in without any real problems. There we go, folks. And I wonder why my phosphates are high. Remember that cloud of crud? Well, after it cleared up, here is what I found. This was hidden under the skimmer stand. My plan here is to get the baster and remove as much of this as I can by hand. I also have to clean that heater. I am very motivated to get that cleanup done because here we are. Introducing Chad. Chad is my Deltec 600i protein skimmer. I'm going to be running Chad in some vinegar and water for a little while just to give him a chance to break in, if he even needs it. And look at that. Listen to how quiet it is. Chad will be the star of another video. It'll be my review on this Deltec 600i. I'll have that out soon. But in the meantime, this baby's going in the sump. My sump has been cleaned up somewhat. I've got all that crud out of there. There's no algae scrubber. We removed it. to clean it as well, and the UV sterilizer is all cleaned up and back in place. We just have to put the pump back in there and hook up the hoses. After getting everything back in and hooked up, I'm very happy to say we got it right the first time. No leaks. It's all running. It's all good. Here's what the heater looks like after a year. It's completely crudted up, so I'm going to have to clean that. Here's that block of Marine Pure. I'm not going to be putting it back in my sump, and so I'm going to have to watch the tank very carefully over the next little while to make sure this doesn't generate a mini cycle. The removal of this much biological filtration capability just might have an impact. And the heater cleaned up pretty nicely, don't you think? I've moved things around a bit so that I can lay it along the bottom at the back. This is about 2 weeks after this whole thing started. There's still a lot to clean up, but I am gradually starting to get things the way I want them. So yeah, 2 weeks in, and it's time to finally remove the matrix, clean it up in some salt water, and then put it in media bags so that I can keep it contained and get it back into my sump within a very short space of time. Once again, I'm concerned about the biological impact of removing so much filtration capability. And of course, my tank was really cloudy because of all this gunk being stirred up in the sump. Here's the matrix all rinsed and ready to go into media bags. I'm not going to leave this overnight. I'm going to do it right away to minimize the chance of bacteria dying off. Fast forward a day or two, and the new skimmer is ready to get to work. Next morning, here we have Chad doing his job, and check out that foam going into the collection cup. This is a great skimmer, but watch for the review video for more detail. And coming down here, you can see I have the matrix all bagged up. This isn't its final resting place though. I have a plan. I tried and tried to come up with a way to set up the matrix so that the flow could pass through it without collecting all that detritus. And this is what I came up with. I call it a racking system for want of a better term. Basically, it's egg crate all fastened together with slots. I'll be putting the matrix down inside those slots, and hopefully this will allow flow to travel more freely through the matrix pebbles and not collect so much detritus. The matrix has been in the media bags in the sump for about a week. So now it's time for the moment of truth to see if this plan actually does work. I had removed the algae scrubber to clean it, and now it's back. But I have a feeling I'm going to have to take it out again in order to fit this rack in where I want to put it. You can see there are 2 white pipes under the algae scrubber tray. Those are new, and that's a modification to the way we had it before, so it no longer sits on a bracket, it's freestanding. The racking system for the matrix was designed for a very specific size that would fit under the algae scrubber and between those 2 white pipes. So now we get to see if that actually works. And there's no way it's going to go in there without taking the algae scrubber out of the way. So I'm going to clear the space now and try again. So after some messing around, I actually got it to fit. And now the big test, can I pull out my filter cups? Yes, I can. Woohoo! And just as planned, I have the perfect spot for my Chaetomorpha algae, under the light and contained. You've probably noticed the glass is dirty on the left. I'm leaving it that way deliberately for the pods. I'm going to try and keep the right-hand part clear though. The other thing you probably notice is all the crud floating around in the water, and that's because of the final step of my plan, the Tunza 60-20. This little powerhouse has a deflector on it that rotates, so you can aim the water any way you want. I have it mounted upside down to get that deflector and that water flow as close to the bottom as possible to keep it clear of detritus buildup. Periodically, I'm going to move the pump upwards and to the left and position it in various spots across from the pebbles, because guess what? That way I can get water flow at least into part of them to eliminate the problem of detritus building up. I've done it a few times already, and it's always surprising what comes out of there. The whole process of doing this reboot took approximately 5 weeks. During that time, I kept a very close eye on my tank because of my concerns over a mini cycle. I could detect nothing that indicated that ever happened, so that was a huge relief. It's been running like this for a couple of weeks now, and one decision I did change was about keeping the glass clean. I don't think it would be right to move all of these pods when they're doing so well and thriving, so I'm going to just leave it as is. In conclusion, so far so good. Time will tell how this racking system works for the pebbles, and one hugely great wonderful thing that came out of this is Chad. Look at Chad. Chad and his dry skim. He is awesome.